Thanks for staying with us. Let's go to this conversation now. The Congress of South African Trade Unions has condemned the Department of Arts and Culture's plan to spend 22 million rand on a national monument flag project. The department has defended the spend, saying it will not only be a tourist attraction, but it will serve as a symbol of unity. Let's delve deeper into this now with Cosatu's Parliamentary Coordinator, Matthew Parks. Matthew, thank you so much for your time. You say this is a waste of money. Why?
For so many reasons. It's 22 million rand. It should not cost 22 million rand to build a 100-meter flagpole and a 20-meter or so flag. But also, it can't be a priority. It's a vanity project of politicians. It makes no sense. The argument they've given is that, well, it will attract tourists. Well, we were very doubtful that any tourists want to come to South Africa to see how government wastes workers' and taxpayers' monies. But also, I think on a more serious note, public servants, which is your nurses and teachers, your doctors, your police officers, your cleaners, your security guards, were denied the increase in 2020. They received a below inflation increase last year. Yet at the same time, government has been saying, well, we don't have money. They've had to cut back on critical public services from the CCMA, resulting in 3-month backlogs for workers to have their cases being heard. They've had to cut back on money spent to grow the economy, provide social security, to invest in schools and so forth, to invest in hospitals and so on. Now we have the same government saying, well, we actually have 22 million rand. We think we can blow it on a 100-meter flagpole. It makes no sense. It actually is an insult to workers. It's an insult to taxpayers. And the argument for it about attracting tourists itself is defined of logic. If you want to attract tourists, which you do want to do as Cosatu, because it's a critical job sector for the economy, it employs almost 1 million workers, then let's invest that 22 million rand into Robben Island, which is really fraying at the seams. And that's a key tourist magnet. Let's invest it in other projects that can attract tourists, not a politician's political fancy.
So you sound like you're not convinced, because the department says that its mandate is not building schools. For example, they were using it as one example, saying that, but they are executing their mandate right now, which is to also define some of these priority areas in order to ensure that these, these monuments are kept alive for generations to come, a project that is going to outlive us. I wonder, though, if you think that, as the EFF has said, that this is an exhibition of a department that doesn't know what to do with its budget. What do you make of that?
I never thought I would agree with the EFF, or the EFF would agree with us. They are right. Something which we have raised as well, that we support investing in culture and heritage and tourism, but this is not a wise choice. It's a reckless choice. The cost itself does not make sense. It will have minimal impact, and it's going to be a white elephant. So if the department wants to be serious about its mandate, which you hope they would be serious, and which are skeptical they are, then they would go and invest this money in Robben Island. They would invest it in heritage routes in Soweto. They would invest it in Kruger Park and protecting rhinos from being poached, etc. Those are things which speak to our heritage, which can attract tourists, not some bizarre political monument, which doesn't make sense. We understand the logic of the department, and the minister says, well, their mandate is to promote South Africans' affection for the flag. And of course, we support that affection. I think we can all recall in March 1994 when the flag was unveiled just before the elections. And I think we've seen over the Rugby World Cup in '95, when Bafana won the CAF Cup, when we hosted the World Cup, etc., that the flag really is a symbol of South African unity and heritage and pride. But the way to honor it is not to build a bizarre 22 million rand monument, which doesn't make sense. Is to take the flag to our schools, to our universities, to explain to children, to learners and students, this is the flag, this is how it came about, and so forth. Is to make sure that our schools have decent sanitation and so on. That's the way you want to do it. We should say, okay, to workers and to companies and to homeowners, encourage them to display the flag at their homes like you find in other countries. But to build a bizarre North Korean-style monument doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense when you've denied nurses the increase in 2020 and countless other public services. It doesn't make sense, and it's unjustifiable. And ironically, this is the very same department which failed musicians and artists. In 2020, it failed to distribute thousands and millions of rands of relief to these workers who couldn't work because of the economic lockdown. Similarly with sports people, we've seen time and again how we can't get young athletes to the Olympics, to whatever other athletic competition around the world, because the department can't organize funding. Yet
So,
at the same time, we've got money for this bizarre experiment.
and the minister saying that it may sound exorbitant, but it's not a short-term project. Let's move on, though. I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this one because I was listening to Cosatu spokesperson Sizwe Pamla in an interview, and he says that for him, he would also like to send a message to the president, and I'd like to read it. It says that the only message we can say to the president of this country is you are surrounded by mediocre individuals, and as a result, you are coming across as very mediocre yourself. Now the onus is on you. How do you want to navigate going forward? Because all of this, at the end of the day, is going to land on the president's door. Do you share the same sentiments that it's time for the president to get involved in this particular matter as well?
No, yes, we do, 100%. The president has to intervene. We've raised this with the presidency. We've raised this with Treasury. The president is accountable for when ministers misbehave or embark on ill-thought-through adventures. I think what the department, what the minister don't seem to appreciate is that this is not their money. It's not their money to blow on frivolous projects. If this is their salary and they chose to waste it, well, good luck to them. But this is taxpayers' money. Workers are really struggling. And we have a minister and a department embarking on some political fancy, and they seem to be defiant of public comment and sentiment. It's not just us as Cosatu who have raised it. The South African Communist Party has raised it. Many political parties in Parliament have raised concerns. We've seen across society huge media sensitivity around this in the past week.
So
yet we still see the minister being defiant.
So as we wrap up then, pardon me, Matthew, for coming in there. So is it my understanding when I was reading Cosatu's statement earlier on that you are now calling for the removal of the minister?
Well, sure, look, the president must make that call. We have said as Cosatu when we're asked, do we have confidence in him? And we don't. We cannot point to a single project under his stewardship which is delivered to musicians, to artists, to sports people, to workers across the country. He's underperformed, and we think the president has to deal with underperforming ministers because, as my colleague said, at the end of the day, the public is not going to judge Minister X or Minister Y. They're going to judge the president. And the president is the one who is empowered by the Constitution to hold delinquent or incompetent or inept ministers to account. He is one who is empowered to remove them at the end of the day. We are raising alarm bells here. It might seem like a small amount, 22 million rand, but the principle is so fundamental. The president needs to act because society is not going to take government or the president.
And how does the president act, Matthew? How does the president act in 10 seconds? How does he act?
Well,
how
the Constitution
would you advise him to act
appoint,
as an alliance member?
Well, number one is the president must stop this project, finishing club. The project must be stopped. The minister must be told no, and at certain times there will be no 22 million rand flag monument. That's the immediate issue. President, of course, needs to review ministers all the time and to say, does this minister still warrant a position in cabinet? We think right now there are serious questions about his competency and his sensitivity to public anger, which really seems to be wanting right now.
All right. Matthew, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Certainly lots of reaction. I mean, this is something that COPE has even called a waste of money. The EFF saying that it's an exhibition of, a department that doesn't know what to do with its budget. At the same time, the department defending this 22 million rand flag monument. So certainly a lot of reaction on this particular story, with many saying that this money could have gone to service delivery, which is much needed. So certainly lots of action tonight, and it is part of our question of the day. That was Cosatu's Matthew Parks.